Welcome back to GFB Express. I'm your host, Garrett McClintock, and I'm here to give you the Express rundown of everything across college football. Today, we're talking again, that's why the background hasn't changed, about the Arizona Wildcats down in Tucson. They saw Colorado move last week. They're getting antsy. Has the Big 12 given them a Tuesday deadline? That is the big what if. Last week, it was reported after Colorado made the jump when Ross Dellinger started to release all of the details, which it wasn't news to him. But when you are working in the media, you have sources. Sometimes you got to protect those sources. You have to be mindful of what you share and when. And after the story comes out, that's usually when you get the full context. And he shared, that they were meeting in May. They had it fizzled off with Arizona, and Colorado was going to move in June, and then they kind of got cold feet, and then they had to they dropped the board meeting and they rescheduled, and it finally happened last week. One of the things that he reported, and it was also reported by Pete Thamel, Brett McMurphy, all of the who's of the big guns, is that there was an August 1st deadline for Colorado. And that was something that was given by the media partners to the Big 12, and they in turn gave it to them and said, hey, we got to figure out what we're going to do for 2024. And so now's your time. And if you don't hop on, then, we're going to look around. So we know for sure that was for Colorado. Was that for Arizona? How far does Arizona need to be down the path for them to have satisfactorily met that deadline? That's always a big question, right? You can put a deadline on something, but very, very few things in life have a hard deadline where, if you hit in the deadline is only as strong as the alternatives are good. So for in a real life example, right, it's if you have two candidates who you're thinking, it is a literal coin flip, and you pick one for whatever reason, and you say, hey, I need to know by tomorrow afternoon, then if they come back, if they miss their deadline, and then you send out the offer to the other one, that's done. That makes sense. And so that's but the alternative here is we're going to be looking at UConn. You at filling that 14th spot. That's not a comparable, no matter which way you slice it. I know they're coming off the national championship, but being in the Northeast, just demographically, with the amount of football talent around there, the amount of people that care about football, college football in that region, it's Arizona is still worth more. And so if the deadline is tomorrow and Arizona calls up on Thursday, are they going to say no? Probably not. If they try to roll up in October, then there's probably going to be some concessions, because it's like, hey, you drug your feet for 2 more months after we gave you a deadline. So there is reported by a few different people who cover in the realignment space that there will be a Pac-12 meeting tomorrow, where, similar to the meeting that was Thursday on July 20th, I guess it was Thursday, July 20th, of where Colorado, they're now infamously, their chancellor, Phil DeStefano, he went and publicly said, we're having a meeting on Thursday. We expect to get an update. We expect to hear numbers. We expect them to be good and for our league to be great. And no numbers were presented at that meeting. That was reported over and over again over the last week, that no numbers reported at that meeting. That was the last straw for Colorado that they needed to make that move. And now we see tomorrow, which I don't know what could have possibly transpired over the last 12 days if there was nothing to show before, and there was nothing even tangible before. I don't know how you're going to pull something together in 12 days when you haven't been able to do it over the last 13 months. But a meeting will happen tomorrow. It appears that perhaps, that meeting may be the stage is set for that meeting to be a similar meeting for Arizona, to have the cover where they say, look, we didn't go first. We got to bail on ASU because they have the same board of regents of us. We're the same university system, but we didn't want to be first. Colorado moved. That put us in a position where we had to consider a life raft. We didn't really want to consider it until Colorado left. They left. We gave them an opportunity to come back with numbers, so we had concrete numbers to work on. We gave those opportunities. It's happened X, Y, and Z, 1,000 times over the last 12 months. And even, publicly, Bobby Robbins, the university president, back in March, I was saying I expect something by April, and now it's July, or August. We've been so gracious and giving so much time that back to what the Colorado region said, for the fiduciary responsibility of taking care of our university and athletic departments, we need to make this move. So over the weekend, we saw, there's the exec producer, can't remember his name off the top of my head, at Barstool, was tweeting out that it's done. We saw, Jason Shear over at Wildcat Authority. His tune has gone from pessimistic to I would be surprised if it doesn't happen. The executive producer for the CBS affiliate in Phoenix, who also is an Arizona alum, he saying his sources done. So there's a lot of smoke. At this point, it seems like Arizona is destined, and we may even see that by the end of this week. And so we may see that by the end of this week, a formal, actual decision, formal move. Would kind of be shocking. It kind of feels like it's maybe a 2-week thing if you look at kind of how those things have spaced out in previous realignment sagas. But Arizona Tuesday, August 1st, whether it's the Big 12 also gave Arizona that deadline, or that's the deadline that Arizona set for George Klavkov, is a key date where it will be a turning point in this. And then I think after that, there's not going to be numbers shown because there haven't been already. What's going to be next? And that is where we will see the day after tomorrow.